reaches the edge. After he goes as far as any man can possibly go.
When you put the puzzle pieces together, the world looks very, very different when you connect the dots. Because what the system wants to do right across society is get people to focus on dots, individual dots, a religion, family, job, football team, whatever. The idea is to keep humanity constantly bewildered, so we don't know where we are, who we are, what even reality is. But when you connect the dots, and so many of them, as we'll see today, have on the face of it no connection to some of the others, when you connect the dots, the light goes on, and suddenly the picture forms.
Russia's space agency claims to have found sea plankton on the outside of the International Space Station. Wait, what? A report in ITAR TASS quotes Russia's ISS mission chief saying, "We have found traces of sea plankton and microscopic particles on the illuminator surface. This should be studied further." The report claims this finding is part of a long-term study, which proves some life can exist in space. The discovery apparently occurred after Russia's 2 cosmonauts currently on board the ISS started cleaning off the station's illuminators. That's space language for windows. The astronauts reportedly discovered the plankton after examining the residue on the illuminators. State-run TV network RT confirmed the news, also referring to the find as a part of a study. Since the plankton isn't native to the ISS resupply launch sites in Kazakhstan, the prevailing theory appears to be that this plankton was blown into orbit from the surface of the ocean by rising air currents. If that sounds pretty far-fetched to you, then don't worry. NASA's a little skeptical of the news too. A NASA spokesman told Space.com the agency hadn't been informed of the discovery and noted the Russian astronauts weren't looking for plankton while cleaning the windows. What they're actually looking for is residues that can build up on the visually sensitive elements like windows. That's what they were taking samples for.
When you connect the dots, the light goes on.
And Houston on 1 with the water in the helmet report.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Terry was saying that he's got some water in his helmet. He just noticed it a minute ago. It's about 3 inches in diameter. It's kind of pulling on the front side of the helmet above his eye level, and he does feel a little bit of squishiness in the back of the hat. Not bad. I'm watching. I don't see anything dramatic. And if you agree, I'll just go ahead and take him out.
Wow, Terry, you look better than I remember you.
When you connect the dots, the light goes on.
Well, a potentially deadly situation forces one astronaut to cut his spacewalk by more than half after an equipment malfunction in outer space caused him to nearly drown inside of his own suit. It's an incredible story. Trace has more for us on this in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we all know, Martha, these spacewalks have become kind of routine when you're out there, but the bottom line is every astronaut knows when they step out of that capsule or space station that even the smallest nick in their spacesuit can mean instant death. This was an Italian astronaut. His name is Luca Parmitano, and he was on a 6.5-hour spacewalk. He was about an hour and a half in when he felt water on the back of his hands and then on the back of his head, and the water was increasing. Listen to him now. Try to figure out what the problem is. Play this.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it might not be the water bag. There's no other place for it to come. Unless it's sweat or urine. I guess it must be sweat then. Yeah. How much can I sweat though? My head is really wet, and I have a feeling that it's increasing.
Yeah, I mean, how much can you sweat? He knew it was definitely increasing over his eyes and then his nose and then his mouth. And in zero gravity, the water just kind of pools like a big blob. And it's not like he can just step back inside the capsule or the station and then pop his helmet off. It took 24 minutes to get him back inside. And then you see there another 11 minutes to get his helmet off. NASA says he could easily have drowned, but he was very calm the entire time. Listen.
You can imagine, you know, you're in a fishbowl So go stick your head in a fishbowl and try to walk around, and that's not anything that you take lightly, and certainly EVA is dangerous already. And he did a great job of just keeping calm and cool and getting his way back to the airlock.
Did he ever? About a gallon of water actually seeped inside his helmet. Still unclear if it came from his cooling system or from his drinking system, but as you might imagine, Martha, NASA wants to figure that out before they send somebody outside again to have the same thing happen all over again.
When you connect the dots, the light goes on.
Amazing. I'm here in Houston, Texas at NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab, the NBL. I'm here with Chris Hull. He's a Dive Operations Specialist 3, which means you're an instructor here. Yep. Now, Chris, tell me what this facility is, because it looks like a giant swimming pool, but not like any swimming pool I've ever seen.
Well, it is a giant swimming pool, but what it is it allows us to train astronauts to go outside and do EVA, which is essentially spacewalks. So what they can do before they ever go into space is get a chance to put on the suit and go through the tasks that they're going to be asked to do if they are asked to do one. If they're asked to go outside of the spacecraft, they're prepared to do that. They know how to work with the suit. They know the tasks that they're going to be doing. And they've done it 10, 20 different times in the pool before they ever get sent and asked to do it in space.
So the astronaut corps, when whatever the class is, they get suits fitted, and the EVA suits and special EVA suits for underwater. And here's where they simulate fixing a space shuttle, fixing the ISS, or working with other modules.
It's the same suit. It's a suit that was on station that has been decommissioned. Yes, some things have been made different for the water, like we use umbilicals. Up in space, they don't have that. In space, they have a computer on their chest. We have a mock-up that helps us weigh them out, either by putting foam on it or by weight on it, depending on the subject. But all the suits are customly made to that astronaut as far as length, as far as glove. They want to make sure that it's a good fit. You're not getting hot spots, it's not rubbing on you. Astronauts could be in these suits in space 8 to 10 hours. In our pool, they're in for 6 hours at a time.
How does this facility, how does being underwater, what do you do to make it simulate gravity, zero gravity as much as possible?
Well, we have the three-dimensional axis. They can go up, they can go down, they can go left, they can go right, they can turn upside down. So it's the closest thing that we can simulate right now.
When the NBL was originally built, you guys made it for the space shuttle, you guys have had mock-ups of space stations, and right now there's mock-ups of ISS modules. So can you talk about a little about what those mock-ups are and how they function?
Now the mock-ups that you see in the pool are one-to-one config. Different material. Obviously, it's got to hold up to the water. We don't need the electrical or any of that.
None of the interior.
None of the interior. It's all the exterior. As far as every rail, as far as every bolt, as far as where every rail should be in place. If they have to go turn a bolt 98 times, they have to do that in the pool because they're going to have to do it in space.
So Japanese module simulated?
Yes. In that far corner, we have the Japanese section. It's got the Japanese exposed pallet. The Columbus is the European portion. The lab is kind of the U.S. portion. So it is an international space station, and the Russians have their own section out towards the back.
Do the Russians have their own NBL equivalent?
They do. It's a much smaller pool. It's nowhere near this size, but they do their own training with their own suit. Now, the Russians don't use the same suit that we do. They use the Orlan, so they train specifically for that over in Star City.
When you connect the dots, the light goes on.
Next, there will be some shots about the boom deploy. We are very much into TSS deploy activities. The first thing, of course, is to deploy the boom. The purpose of the boom was to basically take the satellite away from the orbiter structure. This is an accelerated view, which normally would take about 12 minutes. The boom is an incredible piece of engineering. You can see it in these shots. You can see the actual tether in the middle and all the electrical wires.
Basically here, at this point in time, there's 4 of us that were awake, the 4 veterans, the 3 rookies were sleeping. And of course, the very first concern we have is to make sure that none of this ball of tether starts coming back towards the orbiter. We were concerned pre-flight, and we did a pretty good share of training pre-flight that if we had a ball of tether coming back at us, we'd do the proper evasive maneuvering to make sure we didn't have a big problem.
You guys getting the image?
Franklin, we see a long line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things. We see a long line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. And a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Well, the long line is a tether, and there's a little bit of debris that kind of flies with us, and it's illuminated by the sun at such low angle. So there's a lot of stray light, and it's getting washed out quickly. But Claude is trying to do a quick, good job here adjusting the cameras.
Columbia, Houston, that's a much better view, a lot more contrast visible. And how wide does that tether appear to be? It seems to resemble a much wider strand than we'd expect. Can you describe which way the satellite is visible on that strand?
Satellite now 100 nautical miles.
Charlie, completely unzoomed, and you see the full extent of the tether. I tried to adjust the focus, but I can't get better than that.
Okay, Claude. Thank you.
I'm going to zoom in now.
When you connect the dots, the light goes on. When you connect the dots, the light goes on.
The unique experience is a really good way to describe it. There's one aspect, the part of being outside that is really similar to being in the NBL, the training facility, the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, the big swimming pool we have at Johnson Space Center down in Houston. Everything looks the same in that swimming pool, but outside, there's a big Earth going by. There's sunsets and sunrises to kind of wake you up or brighten, kind of blind your eyesight, and so just the view is what's completely different. That's what takes your breath away when you're trying to get back to the business of doing your work, and amazingly enough, the Earth is just rotating by underneath you.
And, we talk about spacewalks, but it's a bit of a misnomer. It's more like space floating. You're really not out there walking. And I guess the best analogy I can tell everybody is if you could imagine yourself scuba diving in a suit of armor, that's about what spacewalking is like.
And the Wide Field Planetary Camera 2 is clear of the structure of the telescope, and now FOISTA will be maneuvered by Megan.
Well, the indicators look a good bit different than what they do in the pool, but what I see is two black squares with a white dot in the middle. So I can describe to them what I see here, Chris. It's a lot different than the pool. So
when you connect the dots, the light goes on.
Listen, all these noises, and tell me this is at 400 kilometers high in the vacuum of space where there is no molecules to make the transmission of sound. And remember, they say it's 400 kilometers high, 2,500 Celsius, and it's again now another rain of air bubbles. Not one, not two, it's a gazillion. want to see how do you debunk this. It's debris from space. You got to be blind if you believe that. Look at that. It's too many air bubbles. More bubbles. When I saw Eric Dubay video about bubbles, you know, you think, oh, maybe with just the one or two, you know. But if you go in every spacewalk, from NASA, Chinese, Russia, whatever, if you go, all of them have space air bubbles. That's a good fabric for protection of the vacuum of space. Here is a helmet and glove check, and will be fun because the helmet and glove check is to check if they have water. That's fun. Water. They are in the vacuum of space, should be no water there.
When you connect the dots, the light goes on, and suddenly the picture forms. The multitude is always wrong. And invariably, when you look through what we call history, it turns out that way. It is the people who have challenged that have moved us forward in terms of our understanding of who we are and the nature of the world we live in. Few centuries ago, the majority believed. Why? Because those people perceived to be all-knowing, the scientists and religious people of the day, said the earth was flat, and if you went too far, you'd fall off the edge. And people were jailed and vilified for saying, actually, it's a sphere. And then when the evidence becomes overwhelming that the earth is actually a sphere, then that becomes the new norm, and now anyone who says that it's flat is now ridiculed for believing that.